This is the process shot. I'm Michael. I'm stuck in a haunted movie theater, and I have found pain in cinematic form again. Grizzly 2 Revenge is an animal horror thriller from 2020 directed by André Szöts. That's about as much as I can say before I have to struggle to remember what actually happens in this movie. Let's see. Well, there's a grizzly bear. There's a concert going on. There's a park ranger. There's some lady who isn't a ranger. There's another lady who isn't a ranger, but she's in charge of the concert and doesn't want it shut down, kind of like in the first Grizzly. There's a bunch of poachers. Oh, and there's one guy pretending to be a Native American, pretending to be a grizzly bear expert. I think that just about covers the basics. The movie is pretty much a retread of the first film, but with a bunch of new people and a concert instead of a bunch of tourists. I'm not even trying to be sarcastic about all of this, but that's pretty much the movie in a nutshell. If the first one was a ripoff of Jaws, this one is a ripoff of the first one. It takes it a step further by doing nothing to separate itself from the first film, or at least in a way that is significant. Anything that is obviously different is entirely superficial, included either to pad out the runtime, or because the last movie had it, or because other Jaws ripoffs have it. I don't think I even need to go back and actually explain the story, because Jaws ripoff is all the information you'll really need. The few subplots I can remember happening, which are centered around concert preparations, all fizzle out before they can be properly developed, assuming that they're even given an actual introduction at all. The same concept applies to the characters, who do have introduction scenes but no development outside of their jobs, their roles in the plot, and whatever gets them from point A to point B. Everybody is pretty much boiled down to their role within the story, and nothing seems to be able to shift them from their positions. It doesn't help that there doesn't even seem to be much chance for them to progress, as the story just likes to move right along from one scene to the next, often with no logical segues or transitions from one scene or setting to the next. That brings me to the other major problem with this. The story is already weak enough, but for whatever reason, the film is edited even more poorly. From what I can guess, this was actually meant to be released a few years after the original film, but shelved until recently. For whatever reason, instead of just keeping the movie as it was, they decided to edit the hell out of the film, cutting the old stuff down as much as possible with little breathing room. This story zooms right along because it's almost literally cramming as much as possible into a relatively short runtime. It's made worse by the addition of newer elements, mostly stock footage, all of which is clearly out of place no matter where it's inserted. It's most obvious during the actual concert, as scenes of random bands performing in completely different areas are given far more screen time than necessary. The movie even opens with a few minutes of stock footage, as if it had to make up a beginning for whatever reason, or didn't think audiences would understand why a bear might be attacking people. I can guess that if the movie had to be shelved for years, that a lack of footage would have been the reason, but there had to have been better options than trying to fill the gaps with unrelated stock footage. The same goes for audio elements, which are either live bits of audio captured on set, or new stock elements that not only sound far newer than the original audio, but try to give the film a horror tone with a generic soundtrack that does nothing but take you out of the experience. When all is said and done, I think it's safe to say that despite the effort that probably went into restoring the original footage, it either should have been released unfinished and been an odd artifact of a bygone era of filmmaking, or it should have stayed hidden and sounded like a better idea in our heads than what we actually get. Grizzly 2, Revenge. André Szöts, 2020. Half a star. I would not recommend watching this movie at all. Half a star may be even too high of a score for this. That's it for this review. If you liked it, leave a like. If you have something to add, leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews. I've been avoiding giving movies outright 0-star or 5-star reviews, but I wonder if it's time to finally start making exceptions.